Well, a very warm welcome to you again, guys. Hi, it's Kasim. I'm going to give, I should say my name is Kasim, and I'm going to give a response to this question of how can I get into mental health work, a question that I saw online on the student forum. For those of you who've not heard of me before and you haven't watched me before, I'm currently training to become a psychotherapist. I'm shortly going to qualify as a psychotherapist. And what's the advice that I'm going to share today isn't from the point of view of a psychotherapist. You have to remember that, of course, I am going to bring certain aspects of my training and my life and what I've been through in answering this question. But I thought it was a really good question. And I basically go to, for those of you who don't know, I go to schools, colleges, universities, and talk to them about mental health all the time. And I get lots and lots of questions that students ask me all the time. So because I get so many questions, I can't answer each individual question all the time, which is why I thought that I would start this online place where I can answer some of the questions and the types of questions that I get from students all the time. And if you don't know my story, just have a look on my channel and you'll see why I'm so passionate about mental health and stuff like that. So I saw this really interesting question. Most of you should be seeing this, what I'm seeing at the same time. And it's this question of, hi, sorry. So it goes, how can I get into mental health work? And the person, this was written by fionaspaperbag, which is a really cool name. And it goes something like this. Hi, sorry, this is going to be a long post, but I've recently had a change of heart in what I want to do. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do when picking my A levels, but did not enjoy science, so I thought that I wouldn't enjoy a career in it. So I did English literature, history, and maths. I applied for law and have offers, and I am interested in the field academically. However, I've never really had a strong desire to be a financial solicitor or anything corporate. I've always known I wanted to help people, and I thought that I could do this in something like family law. Do this is why I applied. I used to want to do medicine for the same reason when I was younger, but was dissuaded as I didn't enjoy chemistry due to my teacher. However, I've come to the realization that I want to work in mental health as something like a psychiatrist. I really enjoy helping people, and my friends sometimes joke that I should become a therapist and I would like to make a difference in people's lives. However, I don't have the right A levels to study medicine, which is needed in psychiatry. I'm open to pursuing similar careers in the field too, such as maybe psychology or therapy or maybe social work or something like that. I would preferably still like to obtain a law degree as I find it interesting and want to keep my options open. So I was wondering if this is possible and what my steps would be, or if I should reapply to study another course. Thank you for reading. So Fiona's paper bag, I thought this was such an excellent question. And I'm going to start with the most obvious thing, which is I love the fact that you are getting advice. I love the fact that you're looking for to get an opinion, to gather your thoughts and to develop a philosophy and refine your thinking. I think a lot of people don't underestimate. A lot of people underestimate the power of actually getting support from people. There is two ways to essentially learn from life. The first way is to learn from our own experience, and the second way is to learn from other people's experience. And one of the things that I have learned about life is that there's basically not really anything that new. Most of the problems that we experience in life aren't that new. There's going to be thousands, or if not millions, of people who've gone through the very same things. In my first book, which I wrote about goal setting, one of the things that I talk about is these. I had basically have these 6 steps of how to figure out what you want in life. And the first step in that is something that I call story. And in that story, it's all about, okay, figure out what your story is. But one of the things that I talk about in that is look at your themes, look at your patterns, look at what you've learned about life, look at what works, look at what doesn't work, look at what your leanings are. And Fiona's paper bag, you are already doing that. You've already observed that you are somebody who naturally at your core you have a natural leaning towards working with people. Tick. Not that this is a test, but you should be proud of the fact that you've actually arrived at that. Because if you look at a lot of people in life, and as somebody who can attest to this, a lot of us in life, we do things to make other people happy, but the question is at what cost, right? And a lot of people are operating in areas that are not their strengths. And I always say to people that, particularly people who want to do things that are impossible, that if you want to do something which is impossible or something which is going against the odds or something which is going to be difficult, one of the ways you leverage being able to succeed is do something in your leaning, do something that you're naturally easily at. Because if you're naturally good at something and you're a 6 out of 10, getting from a 6 to a 9 doesn't take you from to being average. A 6 to a 9 is exceptional. It's world class, right? And it's much easier for you to go from a 6 to a 9 than to go from a 2 to a 9. The jump is so high in something that's not your natural leaning. I remember a long time ago, I read a book by John Maxwell, and John Maxwell said that a lot of us actually, what he's experienced in his life is that we cannot go realistically from a 2 to a 9. Some people can, but the vast majority of us, if our natural default or our basis is like a 2, realistically, the maximum we're going to go up to is about a 7, right? And the problem is, if somebody is naturally a 6 and your maximum is a 7, you're now competing against people who are trying to be 8s and 9s and 10s. And it's not that you're not going to be in the game, and it's not going to be that you're not going to win, but it will be nice to win. Winning isn't everything, but winning is something, right? Results matter. Results are not everything, but results also help, right? Winning helps. It feels good to win. So I just firstly want to say, I love the fact that you're seeking advice. I love the fact that you're looking to other people and seeing, okay, does this work? What doesn't this work? And the reason why I'm saying this is because if you do want to work in the area of mental health, for example, as somebody who's been training to become a counselor, I didn't know that when you train to become a counselor, about 80% of your training is what's called personal development. Is basically looking at yourself. And one of the ways in which we analyze ourselves is in regards to the relationship that we have with other people. Meaning, okay, Kasim, because basically what happens is, let's say somebody comes into therapy and you are speaking to them about the person speaking to you about let's say depression, or they're talking to you about suicidal thoughts. A lot is going to come up for you, particularly if you haven't explored that, if you haven't talked about that. If you've had a really bad relationship with your mum or your dad, and your client is talking about their mum and their dad, what's going to happen is you're going to go into something called transference and counter transference, which is basically where you're going to project onto them how you want them to be. And then you're going to get into this thing, which a part of counseling, there is a part of our approach to counseling called transactional analysis, TA, and you're going to get into this parent-adult relationship, and it's going to get really, really, really complicated. It's called transference and countertransference. Um, and what you don't want to do, particularly if you're working with people, is you don't want to input what word for you onto them. So it's ironic, which is why in the very beginning I said that whilst I didn't, I'm a trained to become a counselor, I can't really be a psychotherapist and a counselor and a therapist with you, because therapy requires that I do not give you advice, right? But I'm giving this to you because, in a way, this is a bit of coaching and I'm just giving advice, but I'm obviously bringing everything that I've learned from psychotherapy, which I think would be useful for you to get. So, a huge amount of why I'm saying I'm so proud of the fact that you are looking at yourself and you're examining different perspectives, is because you're going to have to, in order to really examine yourself and look at yourself and do that personal development work, you have to look at yourself. So those are the first two things that I really wanted to mention. I love those two facts. I love the fact that you've already realized that history and maths isn't for you. I love the fact that you are actually already doing well. You know, I remember listening to a guy called Jim Rohn, and Jim Rohn said that the beginning of success is gratitude. You've got to be appreciative of what you've achieved. And Fiona's paper bag, you've achieved, or you've already achieved. You've already done your GCSEs, you've already chosen your A levels. And I love the way that you're thinking about this both from a logical perspective, and you're thinking about this also from your personal perspective, as in what's best for you. So you're like, actually, financials, becoming a financial solicitor isn't really for me. I don't really want to be somebody who's in corporate. Fiona's paperback, I cannot explain to you how many people I've met in my life that they've done stuff because it's been easy, because they've kind of just got into it. And the thing that they're doing literally sucks the energy out of them. They've got a lot of money, but they're unhappy. I'll never forget, and I say this to a lot of schools and colleges and universities when I go and speak to students. There's a phrase that I'll never forget, which I heard, which is that success does not protect you from life. What essentially that means is a lot of us in life, our philosophy is basically a conclusion. So, when you take loads of different things, what you've heard, what you've listened to, what you've experienced, and then you come up with a conclusion, that is what's called a philosophy. A lot of people in life, their philosophy that they developed is been very linear. It's been very small, and their philosophy is based on simply their own experience. And I would encourage you that if you are wanting to progress and reach those next levels, I'm so proud of the fact that you are looking to other people to refine your philosophy, and you're looking to to yourself, and not just take it you just using logic, but you're also using who you are. You're also actually listening to yourself. So I think that's also really impactful, and I just wanted to say that. So I love the fact that you're using both of those. Let me also say this, because I saw something that I wanted to say. You've already figured out your meant that you I've come to the realization that I want to work in mental health as something like psychiatry. Okay, let me tackle another thing. um I also want to say a massive congratulations, because I have to tell you that the vast majority of people never come to the realization of what they want. They just don't, right? Most people, if you ask a lot of successful people, one of the pieces of advice that they would give to people who want to become successful, one of the pieces of advice that many of them give is that you got to figure out what you want. And a lot of people have never figured out what you want. And the great thing for you is you haven't figured out specifically what you want. What you figured out is the umbrella, and which is really good. So it's basically you want to work with people, and you would like to work with people in a mental health capacity, which does mean you can become a psychiatrist, you can become a clinical psychologist, you can become a psychologist, you can do research, you can become a therapist. Like, there's so many different areas that you can go into, which allows you that as you develop your career and as you move forward, you're going to be able to have a plasticity. You're going to be able to flow and move into different areas and not think about yourself in a linear way. I read an article that said that the average person today who was born after 2000 is going to, on average, have 11 different types of jobs. So that's like you're in psychiatry, you're a clinical psychologist, you're a doctor, da 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 da. You're gonna have lots of different roles, about 11 of them in your life. So this is why I say it's kind of good to have a plasticity about you. And I love the fact that you figured out what the umbrella thing is, because now it doesn't matter where you start, which leads me to one of the things that you were saying on this. You were saying you might not be able to get into psychiatry. And I will be honest with you and say this to you, because I've really thought a lot about this, about myself. Now I'm talking for me as Kasim. I was thinking, should I get into psychiatry? There has to come a point. I was having a conversation with somebody recently, and I said to them, every single person on this planet, there has to come a point, and this, don't take this for definite, but this is just something that I've realized. There has to come a point where you basically do the maths. I call it doing the maths. Doing the maths is where you analyze, right? Okay, am I cut out to do psychiatry? To become a psychiatrist, you're gonna have to do basically follow the same route as a doctor would, and then later on specialize in psychiatry. Do you want to do medicine? Do you want to train for the next 6, 7 years? Because part of the reason why I became a psychotherapist is because I was like, I want to work. I want to make money. I want to work with people, right? And so what I would say, and I realized I do not have the intelligence, I believe, currently, as where I am, to reach psychiatry. I just don't think that I do. Based on everything that I know about myself, I don't think that I do. Now, bear in mind, I'm different from you. And sometimes we underestimate our potential because we're basing our potential on where we've been and who we've been brought up around. So that's really important. So you have to ask, because for example, I've written 5 books. I never, if you took me back 7 years ago and you said to me that I would be writing 5 books, I would have thought that you're mad. But I kind of knew it was possible. I just didn't know how I would do it. I always say to people that the reason why you're not getting what you want isn't because you can't get it, it's because you don't have the right team. Because a lot of people, when they think about what they want, what they think about is, I've got to do everything. Right. I discover that there are people who are editors, there are people who love editing, there are people who love copywriting, who love proofreading, they love deconstructing stuff and putting uh, sentences into like logical lines. They love all of that. And there's a website called Fiverr.com that I discovered you can literally pay someone like 50, £100 to do your editing for you. And I was like, so then I don't need to edit. All I have to do is write. And then I was like, oh, I'm not very good at like writing. So I discovered that on Windows Word, you can dictate. Right? There's a dictation button where you can literally speak into the into Microsoft Word, and literally everything that you've been thinking about can literally be dictated. And I was like, so I don't have to be an excellent writer. And so this is what I'm trying to say. You can figure all of this stuff out. And so this leads me to this the thing that I would say is I would decide, I personally, if you ask me, if you said to me, Kasim, should I go to university or not? I would say to you, if you're going to go to university, I wouldn't do law. I would do something like psychology. I would do something like social work. I would do something in the area that you already are wanting to go into. Does this make sense? Now, so for example, if you did psychology, psychology can, after that psychology degree, can help you get into a master's in counseling, in clinical psychology, right? You can, there are, and the other thing is attached to this is that you can, um, some routes you can go ahead in through academics, but there is also vocational ways. So, for example, for me, I'm training and I'm doing a level 5 diploma in advanced cycling practice. Um, and that level 5 allows me next year to do a research paper where I will get the equivalent to a degree. Now, I never thought that I could ever get a degree. You have to understand, because I did not see myself as an academic person. When I was in high school, I was in bottom sets for most of my high school years. So to get to a stage where I'm doing research and have a degree is like ludicrous for me, right? Having written 5 books, it's like crazy, right? But I discovered that the academic route isn't the only way to get ahead in life. You can do it. Did you know that they give people honorary degrees? If you work in a field and you make a big enough influence and impact and success in that field, you will be given, or a university can give you a degree simply because of the work that you've done in that degree, in that area, sorry. So I would not go to university unless you specifically are going to do something in the area of that is going to lead you towards mental health or working in with people in some capacity. The other thing that I would do is I would start um, volunteering. I would start getting experience, whether that is working in a charity shop, whether that's working in a youth club, whether basically you need experience, because a lot of people who hire people in the capacity of working with in mental health, a lot of it is not done on your degree. A lot of it is done on your work experience. What have you done recently? The way a lot of mental health is being designed moving forward is a lot of it is being, this is my opinion, is being designed to look at what is the non-measurable experience that you have versus the academic stuff that you have. Because if a person has had 10 years of working in with people in disability, with kids with autism, working in a school, working as a TA, all of this kind of stuff, but they have no degree versus somebody who does have a degree, but they have no experience whatsoever with working with the general public or anyone with mental health or personal challenges. I'm going to go for the one with the experience. And this is how, funny enough, how I've got most of my jobs. Part of what has made me unique and has got me many of my jobs is I currently work for a mental health company called Kooth. I currently also run a men's not a men's, a over 18s peer support, anxiety and depression peer support group, right? I co-run it with somebody else. I've worked in a school as a TA. I've worked as a behavior support worker, right? Are you seeing where I'm going with this? So if you can start to accrue experience, and what I would say to you is look and start to get work. If you can't, if you can, get work in the people who you're really passionate about. So that may be if it's people who are kids who come from really difficult backgrounds or kids who have been in foster care, choose your area and just start contacting people and say, can I work for free? It just has to be like 4 hours a week. And what I would do if I were you is that I would try to get experience in a wide variety of different arenas. In fact, my strategy that I would recommend to you is to spend 6 months or a year volunteering in different areas of mental health. That's what I would personally do for free, right? And I would do that for at least 5 to 10 years, right? And even if you do that, and I'm guessing you're probably somewhere around 18, something like that, even if you do that, you're still not going to be even 25, right? And imagine when you get to that. So, for example, a lot of posts you won't get, particularly, for example, when you're trying to become a counselor, a lot of places won't hire or certainly take you onto their course because it's not that you haven't been through a lot and you're not academic, but you're not mature enough. And one of the ways in which we mature as people is being exposed to life. And as we become more exposed to life and people's situations and what difficulties people have had and how we can help them, you are going to become wiser as a person. Your perspective is going to broaden and expand. So that's what I would also recommend to you. Um, by the way, I also want to say this other thing. Don't be scared to be seen to be a beginner again. One of the biggest issues that people have in in trying to progress and move forward, and one of the things that hinders a lot of people is that people don't want to be seen to be starting small. Just because you've done your A levels or you've even got a degree, it doesn't mean that if you figured out that that isn't the right path for you, it doesn't mean that taking 2 steps backwards is a failure. It isn't a failure, right? There's a quote that says the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The next best time is today. A lot of people get to the 20 years or they try to do something and then they find out it's not their thing. And what they do is they procrastinate for the next 5 years and then it becomes 25 years, right? When they haven't actually planted a tree. Whereas if they would take a step back, for example, use me, for example, right? I was earning 75 grand by the time I was 24 years of age. Then loads of things happened and I changed my career and then I went back to studying, right? There are lots of people who have a master's degree, but then in order to become a counselor, and I can tell you this because there's quite a few of them on my course, they want to become a counselor, but counseling is one of the only unique areas where your academics don't really matter because it's, as I said, about 80% of becoming a counselor is personal development, is doing work on you. So if you've got a master's degree, you are going backwards in order to become a counselor, right? But then if you really just want to work with people face to face, that is a route that you're going to have to go, right? And it obviously depends at what level you want to work with people at. Do you want to give people medicine? But what I would say to you, and is really the biggest thing that I would share with you, is get out there and get experience. Start working in the field that you want to work in, unless you are absolutely clear that you want to get into academia, meaning you want to become a professor, you want to do research. If you that is not your route and you want to be face to face with people, my thing that I would recommend to you is start working in the field, get experience. Basically, what I would say to you is disregard the first 5 years, the next 5 years of wanting to become successful. If you try to be successful and want to make money in the next 5 years, in my opinion, as Kasim, this is not obviously the absolute, but I believe you will not make it down the road. Because if you are to be exceptional, in order to be exceptional, you need to be exposed to lots of different stuff so that you can refine your philosophy, so that you can look at, okay, this doesn't work, this works. Basically, the quickest way to become highly successful is to figure out what you want as quickly as possible. The reason why Beyonce ended up becoming so famous at such a young age is because she figured out what she wanted to do at a very, very, very young age. Most of us are not like that. We need to be exposed to loads of different things. In order for a lot of us to figure out what food we like, we need to try lots and lots of different types of food. And then we're like, we don't like that. We don't like Thai food, but we like Japanese food. Do you know what I mean? So the quickest way to figure out what dish you like is try everything. And so one of the easiest ways is volunteer, work in a charity shop, work in a disabled a care home. Like you can Google this stuff, right? That's personally what I would recommend to you. And I don't know, is there anything else that I would say? I would say don't focus on success and don't worry about the degree. The degree will come later on once you figure out what you'd like to get. You can get the degree. The degree isn't an issue at all, right? Um, and yeah. And here's one final thing, actually. Sorry, I'm adding one final thing because you said this. You said something which is really important. Um, lots of my friends, what did you say? You said something about your friends. You said lots of my friends here it is. I really enjoy helping people, and my friends sometimes joke that I should become a therapist, and I would really like to make a difference in people's lives. That statement that you made, and my friends sometimes joke that I should become a therapist. I say to people all the time, if you want to know what you should be doing in life, look at what people joke about with you. Look at what people come to you for. It's your natural leaning. So many of us, and I've already talked about this earlier on in the very beginning, we avoid the thing that we're best at. It's like, it's too good to be true. Come on, Cass, it's too easy. Well, that's because it's your natural leaning. Don't run away from the thing that you're naturally good at. Do you know, I was reading a post yesterday, and somebody said on LinkedIn, um, comment below what you currently do if you used to be called somebody who talks too much when you were younger in school. And so many people who are commented were like performers, singers in mental health. And it's like, are you joking? Of course they're successful because they're doing the very same thing. The thing that everybody thought was their obstacle is the thing that they're naturally really good at, and they just found a way to channel it so that they can be of some value and support other people as well as support themselves as well. So what I would say to you is don't disregard the fact that people are saying to you as a joke that you should become a therapist. Usually, what's that saying? When people joke about stuff, jokes usually are funny because they have an essence of truth in them. If people keep saying to you that you probably make a good therapist, have you considered it? Just something for you to think about. So I'm going to stop there. I don't know whether that was helpful for you or not, but I just saw it. As I said, I saw it and I thought it was really, really interesting. And I thought I would sort of comment on it and give you some ideas. And I hope it's been of some value to you. So I'll stop there and thank you very much for listening, and comment below what you think, any advice that you would give other people. Thank you very much for listening.